What kind of future world do we want our children to live in?
Not bad!
A world in which our children and children on the other side of the planet fight for natural resources, water and energy. A depleted world in which our raw materials are so expensive that only a few can afford the luxury. A world in which precious materials are wasted on useless products. Do we only dream of clean energy? Do we only dream of clean transport? Suppose we were able to make clean water everywhere, to dye fabrics cleanly, to build clean houses, and to produce clean lighting. Do we only dream of earning clean money and making a clean future?
We have clean tech innovation happening literally on four corners of the earth, and at a speed like in information technology that's unprecedented. So the ability to imagine solutions that will be out there in 10 years, 20 years is phenomenal. And the question is, can we buy ourselves enough time?
Can we come up with a socio-economic model whereby we create wealth for the billions of people who want to live like us? An economy in which growth means more than just manufacturing more stuff.
The change is massive. It's revolutionary. It's sometimes I say it's a bit like when there was a call to abolish slavery, 200 years ago. People thought the world could not run without slaves. I think we are at a time where all the evidence is very clear. It's not an environmental debate. It's a debate about how do we organize societies.
Can we create a world in which clean technology can save our world and our children's world too? Has the time come for a clean technology revolution?
We've always had to fight over scarce resources. But if we get the clean tech revolution right, we won't be fighting over those resources anymore. And I find that hugely exciting.
We have a problem. There are too many people and they want too much. On the 31st of October last year, we passed the 7 billion inhabitants mark, and some 150 new babies are born every minute. We all want things: houses, food, travel, fun, and to live like kings. It's just that we're ruining the environment. The climate is changing and our natural resources are being depleted. But according to Nick Parker, nothing short of a revolution is underway. Science, technology, and fast communication services make it possible to clean the world for good. Nick Parker, inventor of the term clean tech, is convinced this will happen.
It's a very exciting time to be alive because the ability to share information on a global scale is unprecedented. And I think this is the first time in human history that we have a global technological revolution going on. I mean, in history, whether it was gunpowder in China 5,000 years ago, or the Industrial Revolution in Europe, or information revolution in starting in the United States, it was one place. But today, we have clean tech innovation happening literally on four corners of the earth. If we make this transition, then we're going to have abundance. We're going to have abundant energy, clean energy like solar. We're not going to run out of that. And we don't need to send ships to the Middle East. And it will liberate human ingenuity and in ways that we've never had the ability to do before in human history. And it'll lead to, I think, an artistic and cultural and philosophical revolution with that.
At the beginning of the year 2000, Parker saw a remarkable shift in focus at startup companies in Silicon Valley. From information technology to clean technology, he decided to start an investment company, cleantech.com.
Well, the joke is that when we first said we were doing clean tech, people thought we were in the dry cleaning business. And in fact, when we bought the domain cleantech.com, we bought it from a dry cleaner in the US Midwest. And I remember the first time going to Silicon Valley and knocking on the doors of some other investors and saying, who do I talk to about clean tech? And one day I got a response saying, the janitor will be back after lunch. So we've come a long way in terms of us understanding what clean tech is.
Investors now understand. Worldwide, investing in clean tech tops the list of venture capitalists. Make a profit with clean products and clean production technology using natural resources. That's clean tech. Currently, the market is estimated to be worth some $4 billion.
There is a tsunami of innovation coming out of startups, corporations, university labs, all kinds of places. And it'll come from South Africa, it'll come from Turkey, it'll come from Holland, and it'll come from Silicon Valley. It's all over the place. 20 years ago, maybe 2/3 of all technological innovation came from major corporations. Today, the reverse is true. Less than 40% of all breakthrough innovations come from large companies. Most of the innovation comes from smaller companies. So we've got a much more democratic, open way of sourcing innovation that enables many, many more individuals and organizations to participate in the information and in the technological revolution.
But what exactly is a clean tech startup? Here is an example. Some 30 billion kilos of fabric is dyed each year using water. It has been done this way since people started dyeing clothes. But it also means that each year 4,500 billion litres of water is polluted with textile dyes and chemicals that seep into our environment. Weesp, the Netherlands. In 2008, Dyco, a new clean tech company, was founded here. Its name is based on a combination of the word dye and CO2, because this is what Dyco has done. It's invented a textile dyeing machine that uses CO2 instead of water.
This machine will cause a revolution in the dyeing industry, because there was a lot of evolution in water dyeing the last 100 years. Okay, they saved some water, but there never have been a revolution. And this machine is really a revolution in that industry.
Reinier Momal has experimented with this machine together with students from the Technical University in Delft. It took them 5 years, but at last it is finished.
This machine is actually going to dye fabrics without using any water. Normally in the water dyeing industry, about a kilogram of fabric is dyed with about 100 to 150 liters of water. This machine is going to dye the fabric without any water, but we will use liquid CO2 to dye the fabrics.
It sounds quite easy. A roll of fabric is rolled into a pressure chamber. Then liquid CO2 with the dye flows into the chamber. Under huge pressure, 250 bar, the dye penetrates deep into the fabric. Then subsequently the CO2 can be recycled. Ultimately, less than half a litre of waste and chemicals are left. Bangkok, Thailand. Recently, in this country of textiles, the first Dyco machine was delivered. This machine must compete with the traditional and polluting system of dyeing with water. Dyco was a complete stranger to the world of textile dyeing, so the textile industry looked on in amazement. This machine could clean up the whole textile dyeing industry.
There is a lot of interest out of the industry, so it means the dyeing industry, but also like large brands or furniture brands, and I can give you a lot of names, but it varies from, we have talked to IKEA, we have talked to Adidas, Nike, Puma, all the big brands, but also like fashion brands. They also are interested in this technology because it can help them in their green and environmental thinking by making the industry cleaner.
Nike has now become one of Daico's strategic partners, and the first machine in Thailand is actually operational. If all goes well, this could indeed be the beginning of a clean tech revolution in the textile industry.
We've gone from cottage industry to mainstream. Clean tech is big. It's only going to get bigger. It's now the largest category of what is called venture capital investing. That's the money we put into startups and new businesses. That's bigger than medical devices, bigger than information technology like software. So it's very big. And the key for most jurisdictions, for most countries, is we know we're going to have to adopt this technology. The question is, do you want to be a leader in creating the solutions or in buying somebody else's solution? In other words, do you want to have the jobs and the wealth that come with being at the front of the class? Some countries get this, like the Chinese, and some countries don't get it.
At the moment, the biggest clean tech areas are by far solar energy and transport. And sure enough, the Chinese are very active in both areas. Shenzhen, China. Shenzhen is situated next to Hong Kong and epitomizes Chinese drive. 30 years ago, the Chinese government ordered this fishing village to be turned into the economic equivalent of Hong Kong. It has now become a city that produces electrical appliances for the whole world. It is known as Electric City. It is also home to BYD, which is China's largest battery manufacturer, that hopes to steer Chinese car drivers into the electric era.
Our final goal is to achieve zero emission for everything, for every transportation, every public transportation, every private transportation.
People have always sought ways to travel more quickly, and when the wheel appeared, the first step was accomplished. When Carl Benz created an internal combustion engine for a tricycle carriage, we entered the era of the automobile. The whole world changed, with cities expanding. China was transformed from a land of bicycles to an automobile kingdom. Automobiles brought with them both speed and convenience. However, some problems accompanied their arrival. The appearance of the pure electric vehicle marks the world's entrance into the pure electric vehicle era.
BYD stands for Build Your Dreams, and the company originally manufactured batteries. It produces 30% of all batteries worldwide. In 2002, BYD decided that the future was electric transport and bought out a car manufacturer. Investor Warren Buffett decided to participate. Now, 10 years later, their own electric bus and electric car are ready. Some demonstration electric taxis and buses are now driving around Shenzhen, but by 2015, this will have changed completely.
We already have 200 buses running in Shenzhen, and the Shenzhen government have already designed any new buses running on the street will not be from diesel, will not come from diesel hybrid, only electric bus in the coming future. So they intend to replace all the buses to be pure electric by 2015.
Once charged, the taxis will run for 300 kilometers. They use a new type of battery, iron phosphate batteries, that were tested under extreme conditions. They can also be completely recycled and are very quick to charge.
The charging actually is do have different solution. Of course, for the fastest charge, it can go within 10 minutes to charge the car.
BYD calculated that by replacing all the current taxis and buses with electrically driven vehicles, it will reduce harmful gas emissions by 30%, which should help consumers to see electric cars in a different light.
We believe at least by 2020, all the public transportation will be electrified. That's the first step. And then to help to educate the passenger, people can easily raise hand and stop a taxi and jump in and trying to feel, oh, that's the pure electric technology. It looks like this. So eventually more and more passenger car, more and more private sedan, private car are moved to be electrified.
But BYD's dreams don't stop there. Besides batteries and cars, they now also make solar panels. They dream of a green city.
The sun gives us the energy. Only one day it can afford the whole world can use for 1 year. So how to transit the energy coming from solar to be popular and to be used to any family? That's very important. And we have seen that China have designed to move to solar power station or power plant in the coming future. Actually, to store the energy is a question. Oh, it's a big topic, because the sun is only can gather in the daytime, but you need to store it in the nighttime. So nowadays, people are talking about using battery to store the energy, create a battery storage station. So we actually providing the whole solution. We're providing the technology. We think that's the future. So we are invest a lot into this business.
And the smartest investor of the post-war era, Warren Buffett, is investing in them. Bill Gates is investing in clean tech. Richard Branson is investing in clean tech. Name one of the great entrepreneurs or investors of the last 30 years who is not investing in this space. This is hugely exciting. When I started clean tech 10 years ago, we didn't have the same caliber of investors and entrepreneurs focused on this now, and scientists and engineers. The caliber of people who are involved in this space, whether it's for missionary or mercenary reasons, is out of all recognition from just 10 years ago. So you've got some of the finest people putting together companies like BYD, Build Your Dreams. And so it's very exciting to believe that we can get there. We've just got to stop being so afraid of the future and start embracing it with great excitement.
Embrace the future, where everyone drives a clean car. It's a beautiful dream, but completely impossible according to Asian visionary Chandran Nair. Hong Kong. This economic hub of Asia is Chandran Nair's working area. He's the founder of the Global Institute for Tomorrow and a visionary when it comes to social enterprise. He's regularly invited to take part in debates with political and economic leaders. In his new book, Consumptionomics, he states that there are just not enough natural resources to give everyone a prosperous lifestyle.
The GDP of the world is expected to increase by 15 to 20 times by the end of this century. Where will all the resources come from if we carry on this way? So my key point is that we will not create more equitable societies, address the issues of poverty by suggesting that everyone can get rich around the current economic model. We are not even halfway down that trajectory, and we've already seen the messes that's created. Now we'll need to define what the future will look like if you do not have the privilege and the entitlements of controlling the world's resources, which is what colonialism was. How do you share it? And the fact that we are in a completely new era of the number of people in this part of the world. Everybody can't have everything, which in the Western narrative, and particularly the American model, says everyone is free and can have everything. We can't have everything. But that discussing we can't have everything must be the basis for which we create more equitable societies. Everyone having everything is a lie. The change is massive. It's revolutionary. It's sometimes I say it's a bit like when there was a call to abolish slavery, 200 years ago. People thought the world could not run without slaves. I think we are at a time where all the evidence is very clear. It's not an environmental debate. It's a debate about how do we organize societies, how do we create the political institutions that will allow a very, very crowded planet to be shared amongst perhaps 15 billion people by the end of this century. So it's revolutionary, its scope. And one of the things I want to challenge is, I think the debate that's carried out at the moment would suggest that these solutions are to be found in innovation, technology, free markets, etc. I mean, very simply put, we can't use the tools that got us into this mess to create the new future.
But Nick Parker believes clean tech can clean up the mess. It is the fast development of science and technology which will provide the solution. He's an eternal optimist.
We have to kind of shift to an era of abundance. And so my vision is one where we figure out the technological systems, whether it's nanotechnology or solar technology or whatever, that enables us to provide the basic things that we need as humans: water, food, and energy. So that liberates us to go and do the other things that we care about: healthcare, education, entertainment, art, music, whatever. And I think that is really very exciting. And that's what's going to happen in the 21st century. There's no way around this now. We either go one way or the other. And I'm perhaps sometimes intellectually a pessimist, but I'm always operationally an optimist.
Estás viendo Energía renovable.
I mean, clean technology is important, but you know, I don't want to seem to be anti-technology because I'm an engineer by training, and technology is very important. But I will go on and re-emphasize my point. We should not see technology as the solution, the magic wand, the panacea for all of this. And the difficulty I have with this is the continued dialogue when we talk about these things, somehow clean technology. But you'll know, when I mention clean technology, or you mention clean technology, the first thing we think is about VCs coming in, lots of money, there's a technological solution to some niche environmental issue, and then there are billionaires created, and they're all on primetime television as heroes of the green world. This is nonsense. So of course we need clean technology. We need clean technology which is able to serve large needs. Much of the clean technology we have is niche, makes good television, but it doesn't serve the needs of the world. Name me one clean technology that has penetrated the bottom of the pyramid. I can't think of any.
Perhaps an example after all. Clean tech innovation has led to new developments at the bottom of the pyramid too. Nanotechnology, for instance, has contributed to an interesting solution for making easy to purify and wholesome drinking water. Portland, Oregon, the USA. Situated on the River Columbia and numerous lakes, there is plenty of water here. But elsewhere in the world, people are dying as a result of badly polluted drinking water.
Hi, my name is Mark Owen. I'm the founder of Puralytics, and we've invented a new way to purify water. This is a solar bag, a water purifier that uses the light of the sun to activate this nanotechnology-coated mesh to detoxify and disinfect water.
Under the smoke of Portland, Mark Owen had worked in the water industry for many years, until a trip drastically changed his life.
I was traveling in Japan, actually, and I was thinking about how to purify water and using ultraviolet light to disinfect the water was well known. But I was looking at a building in Japan, in a place they go, Tokyo, New City, and they had coated some of the buildings with a nanotechnology coating to help the contaminants that collect on the building run off during the rain. And there was a sign there that talked about how some of the contaminants actually break apart in this sunlight activated process. And I thought, wow, if we could get the light of the sun and the surface area of a building into a can, and thought about it instead of from the building point of view, but from the water point of view, you know, you could make a way of purifying water.
Owen combined his knowledge of using UV light for water purification with the new nanotechnology. He developed a material that destroys pesticides, compounds with heavy metals, and kills all bacteria and viruses, simply and solely with light.
It says here on a sunny day about 3 hours in the sun, and on a cloudy day about 6 hours. So we have a sunlight simulator here. Just put it right there in the sun and just leave it there to purify the water. We were privileged to be named in a number of awards over the last year. This is the National Grand Prize for the Clean Tech Open. This is the Global Clean Tech 100, which is a different group that has named us as one of the top 100 companies in the world.
His idea led him to being awarded a plethora of clean tech prizes. Besides the solar bag, he also developed a machine which enables small companies to turn badly polluted water into clean water immediately. This system is fundamentally different from filters, as it degrades absolutely everything with artificial light. The only residue is water and CO2, and the heavy metals adhere to the nanomaterial. For instance, a barrel full of badly polluted water can be put into the machine for 24 hours, and ultimately the user will end up with a barrel full of clean water. Puralytics is a typical example of a clean tech startup. They still do everything themselves, from packaging their solar bags to soldering their machines.
Well, we did actually start in my garage, so it feels a little bit like that. We're starting to get a little better equipment and growing in our facilities, and hopefully someday we'll have a large factory to build all this.
But Mark is proudest of all of his solar bag that he hopes to distribute all over the world.
So the solar bag in particular is very simple to operate. Really all you do is fill it with water and stick it in the sunlight, and then the nanotechnology and the light do all of the work. And so it makes it simple, it's reusable hundreds of times, and it puts it into the category where any aid organization or faith-based group or orphanage or whatever could distribute them, and people could use them in any community, anywhere, very simply, and provide a wide range of water purification capability. Very good.
So clean water for everyone is one problem that could be solved by clean tech. Another challenge for clean tech is to restore damaged ecosystems.
Still have the problem that in the natural world, the momentum is such that we're likely to live in a very degraded environment for quite some time. And how do we restore that is going to be a big piece of our future. And so one could call that the restoration economy, and how clean tech is involved in actually helping us restore things. will also be another dimension.
Pisa, Italy. On an industrial estate just outside Pisa, there's a site strewn with oddly shaped stone structures. Structures which could never have been carved out like this. Well, they weren't. They've been printed. Printing stone. It sounds like science fiction, but it certainly isn't if Enrico Dini has his way. He prints stone coral structures for a coastal renewal project.
All the features you see are dimensioned to allow some kind of fish to colonize the pieces. So big fishes inside, lobsters and crabs, and on the substrate, the roughness will allow a fast growth of corals. And I'm very curious to see what will going on in the next 5 years when those pieces will be underwater, to see the outcome of this substrate that has been artificially made but is not completed. It's the nature that must complete the job.
But how do you print stone? With a 3D printer that Dini designed himself. A machine with 300 nozzles drizzles a specially programmed liquid onto a smooth pile of sand. The drops then bind with the sand and allow it to harden into a kind of cement. After going backwards and forwards a few times, the print head goes up a minute amount and a new layer of sand is spread out, so another pattern can be drizzled. Layer by layer, any required shape can be printed. Once the print process is finished, the printed object can be retrieved after 16 hours by removing the loose sand. At the moment, printing coral is a way of earning money. But Dini has totally different ambitions for this technology.
Yes, print houses. Seems an incredible provocation, but this is the truth. We have been working for the past 5 years. This shape is a project which aim is bring the principles of 3D printing into architecture. This is the scaled model at 8.5 meter. Is actually the only first 3D printed building on Earth. Very rough. I love it, despite it's very primitive. And imagine this building completely assembled. This should be a temple of beauty.
The construction industry is infamous for producing lots of waste and for using a lot of CO2 in the process of making concrete, for instance. For Dini, the 3D house printer is the ultimate form of clean-tech building. For the whole printing process, only natural materials are used. The hardening fluid was developed by Dini himself from a substance found in seawater, and the extra fine sand which lies all over the work floor comes from the Dolomites.
What we are intended to do is to use you have in your land to build stuff on the land. So the building structure should be, as has been for centuries, son of the land from which it comes. What I have in mind would be to make social housing in a certain manner, to make trullos or domes or or cupolas or something like this, to allow poor people to have a real stone house, something that is not a slum or something like that. I'm thinking about a very cheap printer, 3D printer, to allow very low level of automation in order to allow also a simple man to build his own house 3D printed, and this is possible.
It sounds like a dream, but building can't really get cleaner than this. Printing cheap houses yourself with home-sourced sand, self-sufficiency and natural resources that everyone can use. This comes close to the world according to Chandran Nair.
The majority of human beings need freedoms which allow them access to safe food and water, access to proper housing. The majority of human beings don't have access to that. Electricity, 400 million Indians don't have access to electricity. Public health, education, sanitation. Now we should start consuming those things rather than iPads and flat-screen TVs in communities which at the same time don't have access to water. I mean, you will know, for instance, that more Asians today have access to mobile phones than toilets. The toilets have become a luxury item, the mobile phone, an ubiquitous gadget, which is totally underpriced. I mean, imagine the technology that goes into making a mobile phone. People have it for free. We have an economic model in the world that allows you to have a mobile phone for free.
But not a toilet.
But not a toilet. So let's think about the economics of this. Those who make those things have found an economic model to underprice the phone with its hydrocarbons, with its rare metals, all of those things for free. All you need to do is sign a service contract.
Ya volvemos con Energía renovable.
By hands that are too cheap, from natural resources that are too cheap, and taken from mines with contaminating energy. These are the environmental and social costs that are never calculated, and which clean tech hasn't yet taken into account.
It thrives on underpricing resources, its excessive use of resources, it doesn't price things properly, and it suggests that freedoms allow people to have everything. And this is where the technology people always get ahead of themselves and don't factor in the true cost. My view is much of the technology, even like, you know, the iPads, what would be the true cost of an iPad? Today it's about $500, $600 US. I would guess, and I'd like to be proven wrong if that is so, that the true cost of an iPad is about $10,000, right?
Clean tech is necessary but not sufficient. It's part of a reformation of our broader economic system, whether you call it sustainable capitalism or clean capitalism or the clean green economy. We know that the system is not delivering the goods in a way that is consistent with maintaining the life-giving and support systems of our planet. We're now realizing this. So we're going to have to change. And I think clean tech is the kind of the enabling technology of sustainable prosperity, but the system as a whole has to change, because right now, for people like you and me, 70–80% of the incentives in society really tell us to do the wrong thing. And the difficulty is that by and large, the information signals in our society, from the media, from politics, from financial systems, are not aligned. And the challenge, I think, for our generation is not to defeat fascism or win independence for our countries. It's to come to terms with this need to reform our economics before we're forced to.
An example of a new way of economic clean tech thinking could be the way in which Dutchman Frans Otten sees his lighting company. In recent years, a true revolution has taken place when it comes to lighting. Traditional light bulbs and energy-saving light bulbs are slowly but surely being replaced by very economical LED lamps. Dutchman Frans Otten is co-owner of Lemnis, a company involved in introducing LED lamps right from its inception. In recent years, China has been Otten's working area. Lemnis decided it wouldn't be afraid of sharing its clean LED technology with the Chinese.
The only way we believe in is sharing technology as soon as possible. By that I mean actually sharing the technology with a Chinese partner, who has the distribution infrastructure for sales, and to reach price levels that will make the Chinese say, for that price I'm prepared to buy a low energy lamp. So the old attitude of I'll keep the technology to myself to generate value is not our way of thinking. The future is quickly sharing technology with all kinds of parties. Free technology for all, an open space, as we see on the internet. So we can all use the most low energy sustainable products. We must achieve that, or the future for mankind won't be rosy, I'm afraid.
Vrees ik dat de toekomst voor de mensheid er slecht uitziet.
Like BYD, Otten's new laboratory was also set up in the electronics city Shenzhen. Otten entered into a partnership there with a major state-owned Chinese company. Sharing technology with the Chinese sounded like a weird idea when Otten first mentioned it. You may just as well give it to your competitor for nothing, was the general consensus.
When I said that we should collaborate with a Chinese partner, all my business partners said, you know, the Chinese copy everything. If you tell them about your technology, just once they'll go off with it. I said, listen, we started a LED light company to conserve energy. If we are successful with a Chinese partner, it means we've done well. But if we are not successful, there are two options. They'll either use the technology we taught them, or they won't. If they don't, we haven't lost any money. But if they make it a huge success, we've still achieved our goal. LED light bulbs in China. The only downside is that we haven't been successful financially. But if that is your biggest risk when you start a new enterprise, I think you should try to do this any day. And you've achieved another goal. Distributing as many LED light bulbs as possible. Right, and that was the original goal. If lots of people look at a technology like clean tech and say, of course a joint venture is risky, but if the partnership ultimately means that your partner goes off with your technology but is successful, then the product's been created anyway.
Of doordat het bedrijf zelf met jouw technologie er vandoor gaat, maar er wel een succes van maakt, dan is het er wel gekomen.
Obviously, Otten wants to make money too, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in the traditional way, by constantly selling as many products as possible. The interesting aspect of clean tech is that there is room for other models.
Een ledlamp gaat denk ik uiteindelijk 30 tot 40 jaar mee.
A LED light bulb will last between 30 and 40 years. So perhaps we'll have a leasing system whereby we don't pay for the actual bulb, but for lighting, whether it's in homes, rented properties or office buildings. A system like this is simple to introduce. In fact, we don't want light bulbs. What one really wants is light. And that's the product we actually buy. Especially if you combine it with electricity, then it's more of a service, providing lighting, rather than actually selling bulbs. I think this will happen with products that last some 30 years.
Dus ik denk dat het daar ook naartoe gaat met producten die 30 jaar meegaan.
Clean tech will change the way in which we produce and consume. And will have to change, because increasing prosperity in countries like China will put unacceptably great pressure on the environment, on natural resources, and on energy sources. And they understand that all too well in China.
I think China is absolutely crucial to the future of clean tech and the planet. So obviously, when it comes to the environment, we're all Chinese, in the sense that if China doesn't get it right, then it doesn't really matter what the rest of us do, going down. So what are the Chinese doing? Yes, they're polluting like crazy and they're building coal-fired plants, but at the same time, they're building companies in lighting and clean cars and renewable energy and dry agriculture, which is low water use agriculture, etc., etc. They're moving on virtually every single front that matters. Now, we're just beginning to wake up in the West to the idea that the Chinese are actually going to dominate most of the clean tech industries of tomorrow. And, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe the Chinese are meant to maybe they're meant to be the Walmart of clean tech and bring these technologies to the world at a price point that is affordable to everybody. Maybe that's the Chinese contribution on the world stage.
But most importantly, we will need to start to recognize that there are constraints. So my point is that if resources are meant to be equitable across the world, which they are not, and across future generations, which is one of the cornerstones of the sustainability debate, then we have to understand that the collective welfare is much more important than the right of the individual, and that there are sacrifices to be made. All I'm trying to do in this part of the world, because I'm happy to go into it further, I don't believe that in the West you can have this discussion, because entitlement has created a view that everything is possible. Politicians are not willing to address these issues. In this part of the world, we have an opportunity to create a different conversation. Our political leaders must have that conversation. It'll be very tough. But if we continue to believe in the lie that these solutions are in free markets and technology, then we will create a very bleak future. So it starts with the honest conversation, dispelling the notion that somehow we can carry on this way through innovation.
In a way, my prediction would be that in 10, 20 years' time, there will be not such a thing as clean tech, because it'll be clean tech inside. Everything will be clean. Whether you're making lemon juice squeezers, or you're making furniture, or you're making rubber tires, or tires for cars, everything will have to be clean and sustainable. And so there won't be such thing as green jobs. All jobs will be green, or there won't be a job. That's just the reality of the world we're moving into. And it's starting to dawn on some of us that that's going to be the case. So it's really going to be victory to the brave. Those who get it are going to get the jobs and the wealth from developing the solutions. That's the message.
Y descarguéis vuestra indignación con los amigos y penséis que habéis conseguido algo. Bajad a las calles, en las universidades, participad activamente, id y conoced a los que han votado por salir de la UE y entended por qué han votado eso e intentad convencerles de que tal vez han tomado la decisión equivocada. Más de 4 millones de personas han firmado ya una petición en línea para que se repita la consulta.
El Brexit hace resurgir la xenofobia en el Reino Unido, después de que los británicos decidiesen salir de la Unión.
What does the UK's decision to leave the European Union